People hated Se7en, from its original script to its director's edit, but David Fincher and Brad Pitt silenced all the haters. Se7en turns 30 years old this month, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Se7en starts in 1986 when screenwriter Andrew Kevin Walker moved from the suburbs in Pennsylvania to New York City. He experienced a huge culture shock, now living in a place with rising crime and drugs. So while working as a sales assistant for Tower Records in 1991, he started writing a spec script inspired by his depressing time in New York. It was focused on the police looking for a serial killer driven by the 7 deadly sins. Walker intentionally wanted the audience to feel violated and exhausted by the movie's ending. By the way, this video is going to openly spoil Se7en. You've been warned. He told Cinefantastique, "There's lots of evil out there, and you're not always going to get the satisfaction of having any sort of understanding of why that is. That's one of the things that scares people the most about serial killers." So in his script, he had John Doe surrender himself to the police to rob the audience and the heroes of having a satisfying and cathartic conclusion to the manhunt. Italian production company Penta Film ended up optioning the script. Penta then hired Jeremiah S. Chechik to direct. His last credit was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but he was trying to get into more serious directing projects. But Chechik wasn't comfortable with the bleak ending, with the box, and so Walker was forced to either change it or leave the project. So he wrote a more typical Hollywood ending where they confront Doe in a church. Doe kills Mills, but then Somerset kills Doe, and a pregnant Tracy leaves the city. Walker ended up doing 13 drafts total at Penta and felt like he was ruining his screenplay and that he probably should have just walked away. Luckily for him and for us, Penta was suffering financial issues and closed in 1994. It then sold the rights of Se7en to producer Arnold Koppelson, who brought it to New Line. Chechik did not come along. Instead, New Line approached Phil Janot and Guillermo del Toro. Janot turned it down for being too bleak, while del Toro thought the script was great, but he said no because it was too cynical. He told RottenTomatoes in 2008, "I loved it, I wanted to see it, but I'm a romantic fat bastard, and I don't subscribe to that view." David Fincher, meanwhile, had made a name for himself directing music videos. His first feature film was Alien 3 in 1992, and he had an awful experience because the studio ended up editing the movie against his wishes. He almost never directed another film after that, saying, "I'd rather die of colon cancer than make another movie." But still, his agents sent him Se7en, and luckily, they sent him Walker's original draft. Fincher was immediately drawn in. He related to its bleak exploration of evil and its uncompromised ending. He told New Line he wanted to direct, so then they sent him Walker's latest draft, and Fincher was like, "No, I want to direct the original script." New Line's president of production, Michael DeLuca, also preferred the original, so they teamed up to make the movie fast and under the radar so the higher-ups wouldn't get too involved. That plan ultimately backfired, because there was still some back and forth with the studio about the ending. That is, until Brad Pitt got involved. Brad Pitt had emerged as a big star in 1994 thanks to Interview with a Vampire and Legends of the Fall, but he wanted to escape being typecast as a romantic lead, and Se7en, with its dark urban setting and thriller aspects, was the perfect fit. Fincher was skeptical at first to cast Brad Pitt. Sylvester Stallone and Denzel Washington had both rejected the role previously, but then after Fincher met with Pitt, he realized Brad Pitt's likability would bring the audience along with whatever Mills does. But then Pitt said he would only join the movie if the what's in the box ending remained. And so the shooting script was locked with its original dark ending in August 1994. Walker, the screenwriter, originally envisioned William Hurt for Somerset. Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman, and Al Pacino all turned down the part before Fincher cast Morgan Freeman. Fincher auditioned 100 actresses for Tracy, including Robin Wright. Christina Applegate was offered the role at one point but rejected it. And then Brad Pitt recommended Gwyneth Paltrow because he liked her Legends of the Fall audition. Fincher and Walker originally wanted Ned Beatty to play John Doe, as they were inspired by the 1969 composite sketch of the Zodiac Killer. Beatty turned it down, saying it was the most evil thing I've ever read. Then they considered REM singer Michael Stipe, but it conflicted with his tour. R. Lee Ermey auditioned, and Christopher Guest was considered. Val Kilmer reportedly turned it down as well, and then Pitt suggested Kevin Spacey, but the studio didn't want to pay his asking price. So they went with another no-name actor for John Doe at first. The film's content made the entire casting and crew hiring process difficult overall. Gary Oldman turned down an unspecified role. Fincher's former costume designer flat out refused to work on the movie, and some talent agents wouldn't even send the script to their clients, saying it was evil and misogynistic. Andrew Walker makes a cameo as the corpse in the opening scene, and Morgan Freeman's son Alfonso plays a fingerprint technician. New Line then set the budget at $34 million, making it the studio's most expensive movie up until that point, and filming began on December 12, 1994 in downtown Los Angeles. It just so happens that a lot of rain fell while they were shooting the movie. Fincher decided to shoot in the rain to avoid continuity errors, and because they had to move quickly. They only had Brad Pitt for 55 days before he had to leave to go make 12 Monkeys in the spring. Fincher also liked the inescapable dreariness of the rain and how it made LA look less sunny. Remember how I said they'd use a no-name actor for John Doe? They ended up throwing out that plan pretty quickly and went back to Kevin Spacey. Brad Pitt helped the production production negotiate with Spacey, who got the call to be in the movie on a Friday night and reported to set by Tuesday. Spacey shot his role in just 12 days total. He chose not to have his name in the marketing or in the opening credits as to keep the killer's identity a secret. Fincher and DP Darius Khondji were inspired by the look of All That Jazz, Silence of the Lambs, The French Connection, Klute, and the verite over-the-shoulder shooting style of Cops. At first, the studio didn't like how dark the movie's lighting was. Khondji said they could print the footage brighter, but David Fincher refused. They later showed some preview footage to the theater owners at the Show West convention, and the owners liked what they saw, so the studio stopped complaining about the lighting. Fincher wanted the movie's sets to feel real and believable, so he had the production design team build them without removable walls. The crew had to work within their confines, which added to the claustrophobia. Brad Pitt suffered a gnarly injury on the set that required the script to be rewritten. During the Mills Doe chase scene, Brad Pitt slipped on the rain-slicked hood of a car and crashed through its windshield. He cut through tendons and nerves in his hand. Fincher claims he even saw Pitt's exposed bone. After getting stitches and a forearm cast, Brad Pitt returned to set a few days later, and so his visible injury had to be written into later scenes. For the scenes that took place before the chase, Pitt kept his hand in his pocket, or they hid the injury from camera. The location where they shot the sloth victim sequence was pretty dirty to begin with. The art department had to clean up actual used condoms and crack pipes, only to replace them with prop crack pipes and air fresheners. The SWAT actors in that scene, including John C. McGinley, thought the body would be a dummy, so when actor Michael Reed McKay moved, they were actually surprised. McKay was 5'5" and 99 pounds when they shot the film. His makeup process took 14 hours total, as they painted his skin, covered him with rubber prosthetics, sores, and more. He had to stay still during filming for 4 hours at a time. Gluttony actor Bob Mack had to sit through 10 hours of makeup each day for his part, and he didn't know there would be live insects all around him until he saw a cockroach wrangler on the call sheet. In the script, John Doe meets the officers underneath transmission towers because they interfere with police communications. In real life, those towers actually did interfere with the film crew's radio walkie-talkies, and what was actually in the box? A taped-up plastic bag with a wig on it. Production wrapped on March 10th, 1995, and even through post-production, the ending was still under debate. The studio wanted Mills to catch John Doe, they wanted Tracy to survive, they wanted Mills' dog's head to be in the box instead, but Fincher refused to compromise. He wanted to shock the audience. His first cut of the ending had Mills shooting Doe, and then the movie abruptly cutting to black. That was it, the end. At a test screening, Fincher told the staff to keep the lights off for a little bit after the movie ends to let the audience sit in the discomfort. Of course, the staff didn't do that, and the lights came back on immediately. One test audience member apparently said, "The people who made that movie should be killed." So Fincher and the studio finally reached a compromise. The head in the box remained, but they included a longer epilogue that shows Mills getting arrested and Somerset giving some wrap-up narration. Fincher hired Howard Shore to compose the score based on his work on Silence of the Lambs. Sound engineer Ren Kleiss inserted intentionally unsettling background noises like the rain hitting down and screaming to create a subconscious air of horror. The Motion Picture Association ultimately required some of the gruesome effects scenes to be cut back in order to give the movie an R rating. And ultimately, test audiences didn't really like Se7en, and the studio was pretty sure it was going to fail at the box office. They decided to market the movie like an edgy prestige film rather than a horror movie because the thinking was that a violent and horrific film was not going to get good reviews. And they couldn't market it off David Fincher's name because Alien 3 was a failure, and New Line struggled to market as a Brad Pitt vehicle because they didn't think this movie would resonate with his young female fans. Their research also showed that young men avoided taking young women to Brad Pitt movies because they felt threatened by his appeal. Se7en, which is also sometimes stylized with a number 7 in place of the V, opened on 2,441 screens in North America on September 22nd, 1995. It did $14 million opening weekend domestic, and then something amazing happened. It got great reviews. While some critics didn't care for the violence, most understood what Fincher was doing. Today, 84% of the 155 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive, and positive word of mouth drove more people to go see it. The movie ended up grossing a huge $327 million worldwide, about 10 times its budget, making it the 7th biggest movie of 1995. It was nominated for 1 Oscar, Best Film Editing, which it lost to Apollo 13, and it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the BAFTAs. It won 3 MTV Movie Awards, Best Movie, Most Desirable Male, and Best Villain. Se7en grew in esteem over the years and is now considered a modern classic. Roger Ebert named it one of the great movies. It's in the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. It was voted the 85th best film of all time in a 2014 Hollywood Reporter poll of industry professionals. Its innovative title sequence was also very influential and was named the 3rd best title sequence of all time by IFC. Se7en launched David Fincher's movie career properly. It brought Brad Pitt to a new level of serious acting. He and Gwyneth Paltrow also dated after. The box twist and the quote, "What's in the box?" have become legend. Paltrow herself wore a box on her head for Halloween in 2017. Se7en got a prequel comic comic book miniseries from Zenescope Entertainment in 2006, and in 2002, New Line tried to make a sequel called Aint, using a repurposed spec script titled Solace by Ted Griffin. But the project fell apart when the original cast and crew declined to return. Fincher said, "I would be less interested in that than I would be in having cigarettes put out in my eyes." That script eventually became the 2015 movie Solace, starring Anthony Hopkins and Colin Farrell. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it to the end, drop a "What's in the box" in the comments. For more movie histories, check out the attached playlist, and for the latest movie news, subscribe to my newsletter.